Let's now bring back Dr. Kyung-wha Kang, President and CEO of Asia Society Global. She is going to be moderating this discussion with Dr. Ankur Vora, the Chief Strategy Officer of the Gates Foundation. He advises the foundation on their executive leadership team on strategic deployment of the foundation's resources. We're going to have a discussion here for 15 minutes, and then we're going to open up the floor for audience Q&A. We'll probably only have a time for 1 or 2 questions. So when the time is when the time's here, if you have a question, raise your hand. Dr. Kang will call on you. A microphone will be brought to you. And please keep your questions short so we can get to as many as possible. Please welcome our speakers and Dr. Kang.
Well, thank you, Margaret and team, for giving us this opportunity for me to continue my conversation with Ankur. We've already bonded over many issues, but wonderful to have this conversation in front of Asia Society Seattle family here. Let's begin by Bill's Asia tour. Right? He was in many Asian countries. In South Korea, he met the president, the prime minister, business leaders, did a talk show on a very, very popular television talk show. So what was the purpose of doing this Asia round for the Gates Foundation and Bill?
Great. Thank you, Dr. Kang. Pleasure being here. Lovely to see you all. I'm trying to, okay, there, I can see people now. This is great. And thank you, Margaret, for inviting us. Before I get into this, as Margaret said, I work at the Gates Foundation. For those of you who don't know, this is Bill's private philanthropy. This is the place where he's decided to spend all of his money to doing good in the world, and we can get into a little bit of that later. But the big thing that we do as a philanthropy is we invest in mostly innovations. At least 50% of our money goes into innovations. And the idea is that there's a set of stuff that governments can't do and private sector won't do. And the reason governments can't do it is because it's too risky. If you're trying to look for a new HIV cure, the probability of success of something like that is less than 2%. The cost of that could be in the $500 million, $1 billion. It's not a bet that a government can take or should be taking. And it's definitely not a bet that private sector shareholders would allow the companies to make. And so this is a place where philanthropy comes in and says, you know what, we're going to do these things. We're going to do the things that are the leapfrogs to solve problems that have never been solved before. So that's a broad context. But we're a drop in the bucket. Bill spends about $9 billion a year, which is great amount of money, but compared to what the Korean government spends or what the Indian government spends or the Nigerian government spends, it's a drop in the bucket. And so what we need is 2 things, which is apart from philanthropic capital, we need government capital. And it comes in 2 forms. There is the domestic resources, which is the Nigerian budget and the Indian budget. And then there is the overseas development assistance. So rich countries basically opening up their pockets and saying, we will, it's our place in the world to help people who need the help. So there's a version where Warren Buffett says that he won the ovarian lottery because he was born as a male in this country at a time when, in a household which was middle income or higher. And I think the people who die before the 5th birthday are the ones who sort of have the opposite experience. And so going all the way back, the idea of going to Korea and Japan is to partner with the Korean and Japanese government to continue asking them for their generosity. You may know this, but Korea doubled its giving between 2020 and 2025, which is one of the most amazing things. The rest of the world is pulling away, and this is a moment in time where Korea is actually doubling down. So that's great. Japan is one of those who's not pulling back, and they're keeping their level of giving at the same level. So Bill's going there to advocate for the generosity of the rich world.
I would also like to think, I just assume that we all know Gates Foundation. It's such a presence in the in the nonprofit philanthropy world and does this thing in a very unique way, innovation being the key. And I have to say, when you announce we want to spend everything and close shop in a couple of years, that was very refreshing and innovative, because when organizations have a hard time exiting, but to do it in a such impactful way, I think also indicated your commitment to doing things with innovation. So congrats. But I would also like to think that as part of that long-term exit and commitment to innovation, you're trying to find that innovative energy in Asia.
Yes, we are.
Right? I think so. We share the same commitment and same idea of Asia being where innovation happens, where the future is taking shape.
Yeah. So let me get to that, but first, just your comment on the giving everything away, closing shop. Yeah, that's kind of a ridiculous thing. It doesn't happen very often.
It doesn't.
I have known this for a while, and I know Bill, so I was not surprised, but it still gives me goosebumps. And when I talk to people and they react to the information or the news, it does feel kind of, yeah, this is history in the making. Nobody has, he's got $200 billion, and he's saying, I'm going to give it all away, and I'm going to give it all in 20 years, and then that's it. We're closing doors. And the saying inside we're having right now is a little bit, which is, it's a Samuel Johnson saying, which is, there is nothing that focuses the mind as much as an imminent hanging. We're not going to talk about the morbid part of it, but the great part of it is like, we've got a new bout of energy, and we have focus now, because we know we have 20 years and to do good, and that's all we've got. So that's been exciting. Going back to the innovation thing, yes, innovation in India, in China, in Korea, in Japan, in Singapore, this is the place where a lot of innovation is happening. As I love the saying that if you want to see tomorrow, look towards Asia. It's always been literally true, but I love the fact that it's also on the innovation front. It is turning out to be so true. Like I was in India last week, and I spent about, 10 to 12 hours with different companies working on the AI frontier. And what was cool, because I do that over here also, what was cool over there was, this was AI innovation to make people's lives better. This was about helping a teacher who is trying to teach kids in an underserved area be able to do her job or his job dramatically better. This was an AI tool that would help a healthcare worker make sure that a mother gets the right services in delivery. This was about AI services or AI tools that would help the farmer decide what's the right time to plant the seeds. What is, they would take a picture and say like, you might have this pest. And here's, go to the village next door and ask for this thing and spray it, and good things will happen. And it is happening so rapidly. Like I was there 12 months back, and the world was very different. And so the pace of change is exciting. And these innovations are happening, which are not just great for the world, but they are at the cost point that makes sense. So this is the frugal innovation story, and it's just exciting.
I think AI is the all encompassing, all consuming topic everywhere. But I think the key to its success is how much does it disseminate? How much is it mainstreamed into everyday life, business, economies? And I do think that in that regard, I think America is right at the front when it comes to the breakthrough technologies, but how it is then integrated into everyday life. You see great examples, as you say, in Asian countries.
Yeah. And the thing that's different is, so there used to be the old school where you had the high cost innovations happen in the West, and then they would trickle down, or they would find their way in terms of a lower cost version that could be more affordable or more customized for the Asian countries or the African countries. And I think now, and that took a long timeline for those things to happen. And now it's happening slightly differently, where actually there's the high cost innovations happening over here, and within a few months, it's happening in Asia. And the innovation in Asia is happening it's a price point and an adoption curve that is just so much faster, and it's exciting. It's like, people have heard about DeepSeek. DeepSeek is running it at a cost point, which is just, we could not have imagined that. And so that ingenuity is kind of, it's sort of the Asian ingenuity is amazing.
Well, your point about having that end point in front of you really focuses your mind. I can feel that at a very smaller scale in my own situation, because I'm sort of in a transition myself, but it really does focus, because you have a limited amount of time and you really want to do as much as you can. So bravo. I think that's a wonderful model for other organizations to follow. But Asia, certainly innovation-wise, tech-wise, is really where things are happening. But, geopolitics also. The weight of geopolitics is definitely, but slowly moving in to the Asian Pacific, and now Indo-Pacific region. And there are many, many players that loom large in that: China, India, the ASEAN, then way down there you have Australia, Korea, and Japan. So it's a very diverse region, and that diversity has its fault lines as well, but also its energy. How do you... And we tend to hear about the tension and the negativity that diversity brings, but I tend to think that there is strength in diversity, and it's up to the leaders to work with that diversity to make it coalesce in a positive direction. Having been in geopolitics all my life, you sort of get into the mental habit of reading things in the most negative, pessimistic fashion. But I think as an innovative entity, you would see things somewhat differently in a positive direction. Tell us how.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think so. I hope somebody asks Dr. Kang the question about what she thinks about this, because she sees amazing things, and you probably have great insight on that. So I'll give my answer, and then I'll turn to you. Okay. It is a beautiful thing. So I came from the private sector before, and everything was a competitive strategy. It was about what you're going to do vis-a-vis your competitor. The beauty I have in philanthropy is it's a cooperative strategy. And most people are trying to figure out, how do we join hands together to try and to do the best good. So I get a different lens on this one. So we just opened an office in Singapore. And the reason we opened our office in Singapore is because Singapore is a place where a lot of the confluence happens. So our India team focuses a lot more on India. Our China team focuses a lot more on the innovation in China. Our Japan and Korea people are focusing on working with the governments. But Singapore is a place which is interesting for us, where a lot of roads are crossing. There is a philanthropy alliance over there, and it brings philanthropists from all over the Asian countries, or Southeast Asian countries, Southeast Asian countries, and they all get into a collaborative thing. So there is I'll just take one example that we're working on right now. There is a new innovation in mosquitoes. It's a weird thing to say, innovation in mosquito, but what they found was that there are a set of mosquitoes that do not transmit Zika or dengue. And they found that they're naturally infected by this bacteria called Wolbachia. And so they said, okay, if we infect other mosquitoes with this Wolbachia, what would happen? And turns out the mosquitoes stop transmitting this disease. And it's kind of an amazing thing. And so this is not anything crazy science. This is just like, and so a group of philanthropists, it started in Indonesia. The Tahijas were the one who funded a lot of the research with Monash University in Australia. So it's a very, that area grown solution. And now a group of philanthropists are getting together and saying, how do we make sure that this is scaled appropriately, it's manufactured at the right level, it gets distributed at the right time to the right places. And it's a whole coalition of people who are joining hands to do this, because nobody should be dying of dengue and Zika anymore. So it's kind of an amazing thing.
Right? Wonderful. So, you're throwing the question back to me, but I think, yes, in public service, but I think I have a slightly different background from the normal diplomatic track where you're trained to advocate for your national interest only. You know, yes, I started with a national perspective in the Korean Foreign Service, but I had 10 years in the UN. Yes. So 10 years, you look at the world as a whole, and then back to the Korean Foreign Service, you look at the world through the prism of your national interest once again. But then I'm in Asia society, a regional perspective, but as you say, a region where things are happening, where it's leading on so many fronts. So, and now almost in transition to be that national perspective again. But I think that gives me a broader sense of, at the end, what it means to be human, right? What it means to be human. And certainly I will take on my further responsibility from that fundamental angle. And that's where I think we all share that deepest sense of, why do we do all of this as Asia Society, as philanthropists that you represent? So, you know, I'm always reminded of that core mission wherever one's lot in life is at a particular time, and I will certainly continue to do that. But somebody was supposed to be giving me, oh, we still have 2 minutes. I was told we have 15 minutes on the stage, and I was sort of pressed for time, but we have 2 more minutes. Yes. Great. So you do work in other regions as well.
Yep.
But we talked a lot about Asia. What comparison can you make, just on some broad strokes?
So it's to generalize is a hard thing to do, but what I will do is that I'll do just a personal anecdote, which is I was on the road for 2 weeks. I just got back. The first week was in Ethiopia, and the second week was in India. Mm-hmm. And there were lots of similarities. Ethiopia is one of those countries that actually has a very strong governance. And so the government does decide that they care about issues that we care about. And they're higher on the priority order. So politically, they're more salient, and so they invest more resources towards it. And it's kind of beautiful. And it's similar as in India. The one big thing that was a noticeable difference was, as U.S. government has decided to pull back in a few different areas, for those of you who don't know, U.S. government has decided that the amount of money that it spends on aid, it's going to meaningfully cut it down. And USAID, the organization that funds it, is no longer going to be the same. It's a shadow of its prior self. And it happened very abruptly. Mm-hmm. And so you see the difference in a country like Ethiopia, where I should get my numbers right, but in particular, in some sectors, close to 50% of the money that goes towards the issues comes from aid. And when U.S. government pulls back, you have situations where clinics where HIV patients were getting their treatment, they just shut down. And it was this horrible situation. So I met with a bunch of partners who just didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And I contrast that to India, where India has graduated and it's much further on the maturity curve on economic growth. Mm-hmm. And India has gone into the self-sufficiency mode. They're still trying to chase the dream. India and Korea got independence on the same day or same time. And in India, there's always this thing of, if Korea is already there, when will we become a middle-income country? But they're not there as yet, but they're getting closer. And so the big difference that I saw was just the dependence on aid and the implications of that versus being a self-sufficient country. And the amount of, yes, so that was one big
That's
difference.
a very good important point and a good comparison, because I think the withdrawal of the sudden withdrawal of overseas assistance has different impacts on where the country is in its development trajectory.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very, very important point. But I am now told we're going to Q&A. So here's an opportunity for you to pose questions to either me or Ankur. And
Ask her questions.
I'll take two questions. There's a young lady.
Ankur, regarding the global access, thank you. I know global access is foundational to the Gates Foundation funding, and I think that's really supported a lot of the innovations so they can benefit, the greatest number of people. I was hoping you could comment on what are the lessons learned from that, and if you've encountered any challenges, because as science and technology accelerates and it becomes as very competitive too between countries, as Mark Cohn alluded to, how do we manage that when building these multinational collaborations to really advance science and technology forward so it can benefit the greatest good?
Are we taking a second question or?
Let's do another one before we. Could I take one from this side?
Okay.
Yes.
Hello. My name is Jeff Nguyen. I'm also in the nonprofit space, and it's lovely to meet you. I wanted to ask, how do you balance long-term systemic change with the need to show measurable impact in the short term? And what advice would you give to smaller nonprofits that are trying to strike that balance?
Great. I thought those questions, I think those questions are for her, right? No. All right, I'll do the quick answer on the two. For those of you who don't know, the global access policy that we have and other organizations have it's a fairly simple thing, which is when, let's say, I'll take an example of a malaria vaccine. The phase 3 trial would cost, call it about somewhere between $300 to $500 million. We want to work with the best people who could do it. In this case, it happened to be GSK. And what we would say is that we would pay for the phase 3 trial. And the reason GSK is not going to do it, because it doesn't make economic sense for them, because they're not going to make a lot of money out of it. But what we would say is that we will pay for it. You will develop the vaccine. You will own the rights to it. But in return, and in the rich world, you own the rights and you will sell it at whatever price you want. But when it comes to the lower middle income countries, you are going to sell it at a fixed price that we've decided beforehand. And most of the time it's marginal cost plus or minus a little bit. That's what it is. And that's the policy. And it allows us to make investments in the private sector and partner with them in a manner that makes sense and plays to their competitive advantage and allows us to bring the best science and innovation to the world. So that's what it is. It generally works. The places where it's not worked is when it's always the one-off kinks where you've not done your due diligence. I won't talk about a company, but we have a company where the company got bought by somebody. And the new owners have decided that they're not going to honor the global access. And when you're in philanthropy and you're trying to do this stuff, you're not going to go and file a lawsuit and play the game. And so those are the kind of places where it doesn't work. But generally what we found is it has allowed us to find, because people who are willing to sign something like this, they are signaling, there's a self-selection that happens, they're signaling to the world that they care about this. And so if they're developing something that somebody else could use as an input into the next innovation, they're generally much more agreeable. And so this has turned out to be a great thing for us. So we love that. Your question about short-termism versus going after the long run. It's a great question. It's a hard question. There's no easy answer. The way I'll say we do it is we have both spectrums. So our malaria strategy has a 25-year goal, which is malaria eradication, and we have a what would it take for the world to go from this equilibrium to this equilibrium, and what are the things that we as Gates Foundation would do, and what are the things that other people would do. So we're tracking that. At the same time, we have much more of what is my 5-year goal, what is my 1-year goal, and as long as we know it's on a journey of something that is long-term, we can go after those things that are short-term beneficial and make sure that we are accountable to progress, because otherwise you could focus on a 25-year journey and you could be doing crap in the near term. And so the way we want to make sure we're doing the right things in the near term is we have a pathway to the long term. So that's how we do it.
Yes. And I think given me wearing my old UN hat, I think, assistance, whether it's humanitarian or development or philanthropic, I think you always have to keep in mind that the ultimate goal is to empower the people that you're helping, the ultimate goal is their self-agency, not this dependency that perpetuates itself. And that is why I found so refreshing the Gates Foundation's clear idea that we are going to do our very best and exit. And I think part of that exit strategy has to be really bringing that agency to the people and the community that you're trying to help, I would think. Can we have more time for one question, or are we out of time? We're out of time. Well, thank you, Ankur. It's been a wonder. I think you and I will have many more conversations beyond this stage, but it's been wonderful to share this conversation with you, Ankur. Thank you.
It's the beginning of a new relationship. I'm excited.